right, Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, titled a couple years ago, the number one fan of the haves and the have-nots. Yes, that still is a sore spot for me. But if you know, you know. If you've been on the channel long enough, then you know how I feel about that moment. But in any case, yeah, this is a story from last week, but I just wanted to talk about it a little. The Aretha Franklin estate reaches a tentative agreement with the IRS over back taxes. Unfortunately, it was revealed by the New York Times that the Queen herself owed more than $7.8 million, essentially $8 million in unpaid income taxes, interest, and penalties, which were accumulated between 2010 and 2017. There has been an agreement that has been reached where about 45% of quarterly revenue will go toward the IRS balance. Another 40% will be directed to an escrow account to handle future taxes on the newly generated income. I'm guessing that has to do with the aren't there like 2 or 3 different like biopics or documentaries coming out about Aretha Franklin? And the remaining 15% of revenue will be used for managing the estate. I know I read somewhere about the family getting a portion of that as well. Yeah, Franklin's, the money that is being set aside to cover state and federal taxes owed by the estate, as well as estimated taxes owned by the heirs. Franklin's 4 sons will receive $50,000 payments, while quarterly cash payouts will continue. To date, they have not received any money from their mother's estate due to the conflict with the IRS. Her overall estate has been valued at $80 million when she passed on August 16th, 2018. Jennifer Hudson will star as Franklin in the upcoming biopic Respect, which is scheduled to be released on August 13th in theaters. The film will also feature Forest Whitaker, Marlon Wayans, Mary J. Blige, and they list more people as well. Now, I had a couple of interesting conversations with some friends about this last week. I know it's weird for me to even talk about this kind of thing, but, I was just saying that it's very interesting how the wealthy deal with taxes, or should I say not deal with taxes. It's just crazy to me to think that, well, it's not crazy to think, but for the average person, it's like, wow, why would a rich person have tax issues? They would have money. Why wouldn't they pay it off? But you just look at people like Wesley Snipes, or, even the late Michael Jackson, just people who either had tax evasion or they accumulated massive amounts of debts for one reason or another. I remember, the Fred Sanford story. I remember watching like the Hollywood News, not Fred Sanford, but Red Fox story. Like these people who would just avoid taxes, and then at some point the IRS would just come and siege, or is that the word, siege, or just take all of their things. They would, take their house, take their car, take their chains, like their jewelry and whatnot. They would take it all. And I'm thinking to myself, Lord, my generation, if they did to people who owed student loans the way they do these people with taxes, we would be so screwed. But it's like crazy because these people live the lavish luxury. I mean, maybe when you get to a certain age, it's like, I'm about to peace out of here anyway. I ain't paying no damn taxes. But it's like, it's crazy, because that kind of living is at the detriment of your heirs, your family. Well, there's the argument to be made. Well, it's like, well, maybe if they stood on their own 2 feet, but I don't know. I just know I wouldn't want to leave my family in a situation like that. Well, I don't have family. When I say I don't have family, I don't have a wife and kids, parents and siblings, hey, that's them. But I mean, like, if I had children, I want to make sure they're set up because, her 4 sons, those $50,000 payments obviously were on hold until the estate was able to work out an agreement with the IRS. But I was the interesting discussions I was having with friends was like not a debate, but just a conversation about why would she owe all that money? Some people are talking, well, yeah, it's crazy because she should be generating a crap ton of money because of her music and whatnot. But I brought up the topic of, artists like, Aretha Franklin, James Brown, Little Richard, Ray Charles, like those people back in the day, they really didn't own their royalties and whatnot. I mean, looking at 2 things now in the article and the news story, like number one, the agreement that they've made with the IRS says 40% of the estate's revenue, which is generated by Miss Franklin's musical royalties and licensing, meaning that at some point she either owned them from the start, or she gained access to her master's licensing or whatnot, or and also the fact that the debt was accumulated between 2010 and 2017. So it's not like she didn't have access to her royalties and the money because of the fact that her estate is valued at 80 million. So it's like you just flat out didn't pay your taxes. So my conversation talking point was, back in the day, not only were black artists done bad by the music industry, but at the same time, there was no way in hell they were owning the rights or their masters. So it's like the Dave Chappelle conversation about, Comedy Central and the Chappelle Show, or in more recent days, Taylor Swift and her, battle between Scooter from, Big Machine Records about the masters. Like, once you sign the dotted line, that's pretty much it, unless there's some kind of renegotiation, or if you flat out buy your masters, there's nothing you can do. So it's like, where does the responsibility enter the situation? Because yet again, the debts were accumulated between 2010 and 2017. And, I don't really know how many royalties she was making, but obviously Aretha Franklin music is popular. So there's no doubt that music was generating some form of notable income. So I just look at this and say, handle your business. I think it was TK Kirkland or somebody. I heard this in an interview and it was really good. It had to do with, Gregory Brown, I believe. Hang on, let me check. It wasn't Gregory Peck because that was a white actor. Gregory, not Jeffrey Owens. I cannot remember. Prominent. No. Sorry, I cannot think of his name, but basically it was a notable black person in the culture, and he passed, and he couldn't be buried for an extended amount of time because his family, he didn't have the money, he didn't have the finances to get himself buried. So I remember TK was like, something I learned about money is like, your bad planning should not be my emergency. Basically, like, just because you effed up, you didn't plan ahead. Basically the grasshopper and the ant, like, you can't goof around without, being responsible. And then as soon as hard times comes, you come to me and treat it like I have to help you out, like in this emergency. Like, there's a difference between like, I saved up to get a new house, but like I got into an accident, like, and then I need help. That's one thing versus, I was living in the life of luxury. I was, doing this, doing that. So then when hard times come, I go to my dependable friend to, get me out of the jam, but you didn't prepare for, when bad times hit. So it's just one of those things where I ain't really trying to call it Aretha Franklin, because I'm pretty sure there are lots of wealthy people who do the same thing where, they just avoid taxes, and when their time comes, it's those who are left behind who have to deal with the pieces. It's like, if somebody with a lot of things are earthly possessions, finances, property, whatnot, they pass away and there's no will, then there's like a huge battle between like, maybe the IRS, the estate, and the family. So it is what it is. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Aretha Franklin debt. I mean, like I said, the estate is like $80 million worth. Because a lot of people think, so-and-so is worth $50 million, so they're rich. Not necessarily. Just because they're worth $50 million doesn't mean they have $50 million. Like, their money could be tied up in a lot of investments, properties, and things of that nature. So it's not like they have $50 million in their bank accounts. But hey, I ain't even got 5,000 in my bank account, but it is what it is. So thanks so much for tuning in. And if you want to donate to the channel, I'm not asking for 7.8 million. But if you feel inclined, hit me up on Cash App or PayPal. Links are in the description. And with that being said, I'll talk to you soon.